Welcome back, students. You've tuned into Your Menopause Your Way, and I'm your Professor Menopause Taylor. You have chosen a very important video. We are in the midst of a unit on Alzheimer's disease. This is video number 243 of the entire Your Menopause Your Way education, and it's the 8th video in the Alzheimer's unit. I'm probably the only person on YouTube who provides a real education that requires you to watch my videos in order. So if you aren't watching them in order, you are really throwing away your education on menopause. In my book, all of chapter 33 is on Alzheimer's, but you need to watch this particular video regardless of whether or not you have the book. This particular video is going to explain the actual symptoms of Alzheimer's. Not only that, it will also help you to make sense of them and why they occur the way they do. And it will address the issue of diagnosis. Back in video 240, I talked about the different kinds of memory. We started that video by defining memory as the ability to retain and recall information. Well, today we're going to use what you learned about memory to address the symptoms of Alzheimer's. Oh, I'm just busting to give you a quiz question. And it's a great way to start off this lesson. So here it is. Which of the following is true about the pattern of memory loss in Alzheimer's disease? A, loss of recent memories occurs first, followed by loss of distant memories. B, loss of frequently used information occurs first, followed by loss of infrequently used information. C, loss of memory is gradual rather than sudden. D, loss of verbal memory is an early symptom of Alzheimer's. E, loss of muscle memory is an early symptom of Alzheimer's. F, A, B, and C above. G, D, and E above. H, A, C, and E above. Or I, there is no pattern. So which is it? Do you see how those options force you to consider both the timing and the order of memory loss? I intentionally made sure this quiz question focused on those two features because they are what we'll be addressing today. So here's the quiz question again with the answer in bold. Okay. So if memory loss is gradual in Alzheimer's, which memories do you lose first? And which ones do you lose last? This is what forms the pattern of symptoms of memory loss in Alzheimer's. So let's discuss the symptoms of Alzheimer's, and you'll discover that the typical pattern of memory loss in Alzheimer's is not random at all. Instead, it progresses along a gradient, or actually two gradients. You know, the word gradient means degree or rate. And with Alzheimer's, there are two different gradients that determine which memories you lose first and which ones you lose last. All gradients involve a range. And these two gradients are no different. They both involve ranges. The first gradient is the temporal gradient. It refers to timing. More specifically, it refers to how long you have had a memory. You have long memories of things that happened a very long time ago, don't you? And you have short-term memories of things that just happened very recently. So let's just refer to this temporal gradient as length. The second gradient is the utility gradient. It refers to how frequently you use a memory. There are some memories that you use very frequently to do things over and over again, daily or weekly. They are the heavyweights of your memories. And there are other memories that you use very infrequently to do things rarely or just once in a blue moon, as they say. They are the lightweights of your memories. So we'll just refer to this gradient as strength. So these two gradients, the length and the strength of a memory, determine which memories you lose first in Alzheimer's disease. So how do you think these gradients work? Here's another quiz question. See how you do on this one. Which of the following is true about the utility and temporal gradients of memory loss in Alzheimer's disease? A, long-term memory is more resistant to Alzheimer's than short-term memory. B, short-term memory is more resistant to Alzheimer's than long-term memory. C, frequently used memories are more resistant to Alzheimer's than infrequently used memories. D, infrequently used memories are more resistant to Alzheimer's than frequently used memories. E, long-term memories that are used frequently are more resistant to Alzheimer's than short-term memories that are used infrequently. F, long-term memories that are used infrequently are more resistant to Alzheimer's than short-term memories that are used frequently. G, short-term memories that are used frequently are more resistant to Alzheimer's than short-term memories that are used infrequently. H, short-term memories that are used infrequently are more resistant to Alzheimer's than short-term memories that are used frequently. I, A, C, E, and G above. J, B, D, F, and H above. Was that absolutely confusing? Don't worry. You know that I'll make it simple for you in just a bit. Here is the quiz question again with the answer in bold. Okay, to understand the answer, let's go back to our two gradients. The first gradient is length. Long length means long term. Long term means that you have had that memory in your brain for a long time. Well, it would make perfect sense for a memory that you've had for a long time to stay better than one that you've had for only a short time, right? And it makes sense that a memory that you've had for a short time to decay more readily than one you've had for a long time. So, long-term memories stay while short-term memories decay. This is really easy to plot on a graph. What you see here is the simplest of graphs. Along the horizontal x-axis, you see ages from 0 to 80. Obviously, the longest memories are the ones you had when you were the youngest. Those are the memories represented by the highest point on the left side of the graph, when you were very young. Along the vertical y-axis are numbers from 0 to 9. This is the stay or decay scale. 9 is a memory that is likely to stay. 1 is a memory that is likely to decay. So the memories with the most staying power are represented by the highest point of the blue line on the left also. So the longer the memory, the better it is. The better the memory, the more likely it is to stay rather than decay. So long-term memories stay, while short-term memories decay. We can do the same thing with the strength gradient. Frequent use makes a memory stronger, just like frequent weight bearing makes a muscle stronger. A stronger memory is one you have used very frequently. So it makes sense that a stronger, more frequently used memory would stay better than a weak one that you use infrequently. And a weaker, less frequently used memory would decay more easily than a strong one that you use frequently. So strong memories stay, while weak memories decay. And here's how that graph would look. In this graph, along the horizontal x-axis, you see strength as measured by frequency of use. Obviously, the strongest memories are the ones you use the most frequently. So, the strongest memories are represented by the highest point of the orange line on the right, indicating frequent use. Along the vertical y-axis are the numbers from 0 to 9, and this is the same stay or decay scale that you saw in the first graph. 9 is a memory that is likely to stay. 1 is a memory that is likely to decay. The memories with the most staying power are represented by the highest point of the orange line on the right also. So the stronger the memory, the better it is. The better the memory, the more likely it is to stay than to decay. So now, let's superimpose these two graphs on one another. Now you have length on the horizontal x-axis again, and you have strength on the vertical y-axis. Strength has to do with frequency of use. So 9 is frequent use and 0 is infrequent use. And it's really simple. Longer memories and stronger memories stay better than shorter memories and weaker memories. It's all about length and strength. This means that when it comes to Alzheimer's, the memories that decay the earliest are going to be those memories that are shorter and weaker. Shorter and weaker memories will decay. Obviously, the shorter and weaker memories will encompass different arenas for different individuals. So the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease vary greatly from one person to another. Well, that brings us directly to the actual symptoms of Alzheimer's. The earliest symptoms are going to indicate decay of short and weak memories that you use infrequently. For most people, this means that you would have difficulty remembering conversations you had recently about new things. Remember that chart of the different kinds of memory we created in video 240? Well, if we were to fill in the cells that are affected early in Alzheimer's for most people, it would look something like this. And late symptoms are going to indicate decay of long and strong memories that you use frequently. So then, most people would have difficulty remembering basic things that you've known for a long time and used to do without much effort. That would entail disorientation, confusion, and difficulty speaking. And our chart would then look like this. Now, the actual progression is different for every individual who has Alzheimer's. This is true with regard to the pace of memory loss, order of memory loss, and severity of memory loss. Do not assume that a certain symptom places a person at a specific stage of Alzheimer's. Unfortunately, though, Alzheimer's is always progressive. And unless something else kills you first, Alzheimer's is always fatal. In video 238 on how your brain builds up and breaks down, I taught you that the more that you develop your brain, the bigger and heavier it gets. Well, with Alzheimer's, the reverse occurs. Your brain literally shrinks. By the time you have visible symptoms of Alzheimer's, about 40% of your brain is already gone. You might recall seeing this photo. The problem is that by the time you have even the very earliest symptoms, you already have a lot of the pathology I taught you in video 242. Back then, I showed you this. This is that board with your plaques and tangles. You learned that the pathological features of Alzheimer's consists of plaques and tangles. But the only way to actually see plaques and tangles is to do an autopsy on the brain of someone who has already died. Other than autopsy, though, it sure would be nice to have a diagnostic tool to detect Alzheimer's before you exhibit symptoms, and certainly before you die. Currently, there is one imaging study called a PET scan that can possibly do so. PET, P-E-T, is an acronym for positron emission tomography. It involves the use of a radioactive tracer that highlights the amyloid plaques in an Alzheimer's brain. But it is really expensive and costs $3,000 to $7,000 per scan. And it may be very late in the disease process when the diagnosis is made by a PET scan. What we need is some kind of blood test that can reveal early damage to neurons. But so far, we don't have one. Currently, the only easy, efficient, and inexpensive means of testing for Alzheimer's is a simple mental status exam. This is where your doctor asks you some very basic questions, and if you can answer them correctly, your brain is supposedly normal. But there is a huge divide between the time Alzheimer's pathology begins in your brain and the time when you start showing symptoms. So the question becomes, how long after developing plaques and tangles do symptoms develop? And the next question becomes, can you have plaques and tangles without having symptoms of Alzheimer's? And the third question becomes, are there things you can do to make it possible to function normally even if you do have plaques and tangles? I guess you could say that these questions fall into the category of what I call the evidence conundrum, which states that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. And the corollary of that would be presence of evidence is not evidence of presence. Just as you can function abnormally without Alzheimer's, maybe you can function normally with Alzheimer's. Maybe you can function normally even if you have pathological evidence of Alzheimer's in your brain. And these are some of the things I'll address in the videos on management options for Alzheimer's. You know, one of the recurrent themes of this education pertains to timing. Specifically, it pertains to the time difference between when a disease process actually begins and when you have symptoms to alert you to its presence. Some diseases have a short time frame between the two, enabling you to stop the disease process or treat it before it's too late. Other diseases have a long time frame between them, making it such that it's already too late when you first notice symptoms. For some diseases that do not produce symptoms, there are screening tests to detect them early, and for others, there are none. In the unit on heart attack, you learn that there are many early symptoms to warn you of an impending heart attack. On the contrary, you've learned that high blood pressure is silent. But fortunately, you can simply take your blood pressure to screen for it before it causes any problems. And you saw in the osteoporosis unit that there are absolutely no symptoms of bone loss until it's too late. And you saw that even though we have the means to screen for it early, the guidelines are not laid out for you to do so. With Alzheimer's, it's a double whammy. Not only is the disease advanced once the first symptoms appear, but there also isn't a screening test to detect it early. Nor is there any treatment. It's always fatal. So you just have to do everything in your power to prevent it. And that's what I'll be teaching you in the videos on management options. So here's a summary of what you've learned today. In Alzheimer's, the earliest symptoms reflect decay of memories that are short-term and used infrequently. Later symptoms reflect decay of memories that are long-term and used frequently. But symptoms appear long after plaques and tangles are present in your brain, and currently we have no way of diagnosing them before it's too late. In future videos, we will address the things you can do to make your memories stay rather than decay, even in the presence of plaques and tangles. Okay, it's time to stop. In the next video, we'll talk about the incidence and prevalence of Alzheimer's. In the meantime, remember to schedule consultations at menopausetailor.me. Remember to subscribe. Remember to follow me on FaceTime, Twitter, and Instagram. And remember to come back next week for another great video. Bye!